Welcome back to Shared Humanity. My name is Nelba Madges Green, and I serve as the activist in residence at the Yale School of Public Health under the umbrella of the Firearm Injury Prevention Initiative. I talk to the humans behind the headlines of gun violence in a moment in history where all too often we focus on everything but our shared humanity. Celeste Fulcher lost her daughter, Erika Robinson, in a mass shooting that occurred at a nightclub on October 26 in New Haven. On December 15th, 2013, I looked at the New Haven Register, and there was a headline that caught my attention: Race-dimmed outrage over New Haven shooting. Celeste Fulcher, today's guest, takes us through the experience of losing a daughter in a mass shooting no one covered. I'm grateful to have her here today. I think where I'd like to start is, can you tell us a little bit about your family?
Absolutely. My name is Celeste Robinson Fulcher. I am married. I have 3 children. One I lost in 2013, and I'm a survivor of homicide. I'm a mom that lost a child through gun violence.
I am walking very tenderly in this space because I know you.
Mm-hmm.
You're not just a mom who lost a child to gun violence. You're also a friend. And the way we connect is I actually remember reading your story in the New Haven Register.
Yes.
But you
and your
told some
husband.
truths in that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And for somebody who wasn't in Connecticut in 2013, can you share with them what some of those truths were, or what some of the things you shared in that interview or you were experiencing?
Well, I received a whole totally different experience than you have. And what we spoke about was mainly zip. We believe it had something to do with your area code. Not so much the area code, I'm sorry, the zip code.
Right.
So when yours happened and it was high profile.
So when you mean the Sandy Hook shooting? When the Sandy Hook shooting happened in December of 2012.
Absolutely.
You watched as the world stopped.
Exactly. And fast forward, I lost my daughter in October of 2013 to a nightclub shooting in New Haven.
A mass shooting.
A mass shooting. 6 people were shot. And she was the only one to succumb to her injuries. And I did receive a lot of support from family, friends, high profile, but I didn't receive, to this day, they still will not call it a mass shooting.
And the world didn't stop.
And the world did not stop.
The world didn't stop, as it doesn't stop for many mothers.
Absolutely.
Who lose their children.
All over.
In community violence, to suicide, in rural communities. We need to talk about this, that the world
Absolutely
doesn't stop and what it does to you. I just remember seeing this picture of you and your husband.
Mm-hmm.
And he looked
broken. Completely broken.
Yes.
Completely. And as of all of us, that's something to this day, 10 years later, we're still broken. You learn coping skills, but I call it emotional roller coaster. I always say, back years ago when we were young, we rode roller coasters. We had to get off and run to the front line to get back on. I'd never get off that roller coaster. So I'm on a up and down constantly every day. And the guy that killed my daughter received a life sentence. But so did we. So did we. And not my immediate family, but friends that were so close to my daughter. So it's a terrible, terrible thing because people don't realize whenever there's a shooting and you see it on the news, that person belongs to someone. That person is loved by someone. And everybody's hit by that. Everybody's touched from just that, one senseless act.
And these families, these individuals, they're not just touched by the act, they're also touched by the lack of action subsequent the act. So I remember your husband, I just remember one line stuck out to me, and it was like, why does the world only care when the Newtown children died.
Yes.
And that was the line that made me jump out of my skin as I was reading it, because I knew that he was telling the truth.
Yes, absolutely.
And I knew that he was saying something that he felt in that alongside this picture was just heartbreaking.
Absolutely.
And that's when we start to talk and say, okay, how do we do this? How do we move on? Because we're both feeling the same pain, but receiving very
totally different
treatment.
Totally different action, treatment, volume of information being put out there from both sides, from both ends. But we both lost a child.
Right.
To gun violence.
Even resources.
Exactly.
Even resources were very different.
Completely.
Right.
Completely. And the sad part is it's still going on. Not just the shooting, but the resources. I think I was a little lucky because I did reach out and really get out there, and I had a few people come and help me to get resources, a lot more. But being just put in the inner city, in the surrounding areas, no, very, very low.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Why do you think that is?
I hate to say because of its being the inner city, that is, people don't care. I hate to think that's the issue, but
I would agree with you, and the evidence does point that way.
Right. I mean, you always come back to that, like, wow, I don't want to believe that is it, but it just, like you said, just comes back full circle.
Because the truth is, whether you lose a child in a rural community or in an act of community violence or in a school, the pain subsequent is the same.
The same.
So the resources need to exist.
Exactly.
Right? What resources were available to you after you lost your daughter to gun violence?
I received treatment. I received different amounts of treatment, all type of different therapists. I went through a couple of therapists until I found one that I really felt safe with, felt a connection with. And 10 years later, we were still my therapist. We, actually became even, more closer. But I totally agree. I'm hands-on when it comes to therapy because I wanted to get myself better. I had 4 other people looking at me to help them, even though my kids were grown. And my husband, they were grown, but they were still suffering. And I'm mom. And they're looking for mom to fix them. I couldn't fix myself. So I had to literally stop, focus on me. Now I can go back and focus on them and help them much more.
I think that's something people also don't understand, that when gun violence happens, it's gun violence and it's the loss of a person, but it's an impact on a whole family.
Absolutely.
Right? And families don't typically grieve in sync. Right? No. So you were going through a process. Greg, your husband, was going through a process. Your children were going through a process. Your grandchild was going through a process. Everyone was going through their own process.
Their own journey.
And without resources.
Absolutely.
A family actually can fracture.
Yes.
Many people think that when something terrible happens, families come together. Mm-hmm. And that's actually the opposite of my experience.
Complete opposite.
Right.
Complete opposite. I even felt like I failed or failed as a mom. I felt like I failed as a wife. Failure might not be the correct word, but at that point, I was completely hopeless, broken. I mean, just all the above. So how can I help you? I couldn't help me at the time. So I had to do something. I made a choice.
I'm not sure that someone listening might be clear on why failure. And I just want to preface
Yes,
that with
yes.
saying that that's not an uncommon thing that moms or dads or relatives but it's particularly moms who've lost children to gun violence. That's not an uncommon thing that they say, but I'm not sure that someone would understand that. Failure, why?
Failure because I wanted to help them. I wanted to see your child struggle with losing their sister, their sibling, see their sibling, and specifically my son. My son was 3 years younger than Erika, and they were very close. They were so close. I mean, it was like he didn't even want us to say anything wrong to her. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
So to see him lose her and then my grandson, so it all just comes back to the failure part where I felt like that because I couldn't fix it. I couldn't fix them. I couldn't fix them. You know, when your kid falls and scratch their knee, you know, you run to get a Band-Aid, you hit, you know what I mean? You kiss it, they're gone, they're good. And something like this, it was beyond me.
Yeah.
It was beyond me.
I want it to be really clear to people listening that the ravages of gun violence are deep for many reasons. And without proper resources, what families end up doing is blaming themselves when they don't get better. When really the reason that getting better is difficult
Yes.
is because this is something that should have never happened.
Right.
Your daughter
Unexpected.
was an adult
Yes.
and she went to a nightclub.
Yes.
An action that hundreds of thousands of people do on the weekends.
On the weekend. As if
everywhere
it's
in the
nothing.
country.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Exactly. And that particular night, she wasn't going to go out. She wasn't going anywhere. But she received a phone call that so-and-so's birthday, come out and have a drink, you know. So she ended up going. And her incident, I guess, carried on from a prior nightclub downtown. So these two particular guys must have had issues at a prior nightclub.
Of which Erika wasn't even involved.
And she wasn't even involved, innocent bystander. So that carried over to the nightclub that Erika got killed at, those two guys. In a room with maybe 250 people inside that room, inside that, you know, that nightclub. And he decided he wants to shoot, you know, get him inside. And it's not okay if he would have waited outside. You know what I mean? The whole thing of you had to take that measure, you know, because you're angry or whatever he did to you before. But you're mad at that one person. Now, there's 6 people, lives have changed, just those immediate 6 people, let alone the other people that was inside the nightclub that got hurt from running, trampled over, things like that. So the experience of them being inside and being closed in and you hearing gunshots like multi, you know what I mean? Like shots flying everywhere. So it was awful. It was awful. It changed my life. It literally changed my life in a blink of an eye. Just receiving in my incident, I live in West Haven. Her incident happened in New Haven. So I didn't get the police to come to my home. Two of her girlfriends came to my home and they were banging on my door. So when, you know, my husband got to the door first, they're yelling, Erika got shot, Erika got shot. So I'm sitting there like disbelief, like Erika got shot. Like I couldn't even, you know. But my husband knew all about, he knew right away that she was gone. And I was saying to him, please don't say that. Don't say that, you know. But we got to the hospital. You know, I did receive the utmost respect from the New Haven Police Department, the Yale New Haven Hospital. We did go in, and it was awful. Absolutely awful. They did an excellent job as far as there was no signs. There was no signs of violence, looking at her. And I think that's what kind of gave me a little peace at that moment to see that I didn't see suffering. I didn't see any suffering. It would literally look like she was sleeping. And I think that at the moment helped me, And it sounds strange, when you say that because to watch her.
It doesn't sound strange.
Okay.
Not to me, because we're in this.
Yes.
Maybe
yes.
to someone listening.
Yes.
But you've touched so many themes that I don't want to lose.
Mm-hmm.
You talked about the people we don't always talk about when there's a shooting.
Yes.
Witnesses.
Yes.
Injured.
Yes.
People who survive but were somewhere in the vicinity or heard the ambulances,
Mm-hmm.
We don't talk about this. So you talked about that. You also talked about the several things that can happen after your loved one is involved in a gun violence incident, which is things like notification,
Yes.
treatment in a hospital,
Yes.
the funeral home, how you're treated by the police, investigation, if you're treated respectfully. And now
Right.
all of these things
Yes.
are things I think people see your story in the news and think, oh, that's unfortunate, and turn the TV. Or they may have seen my story in the news, maybe for a little bit longer, and say, oh, those Sandy Hook families. And then they turn. They don't realize the number of
Yes.
things
Oh, yeah.
that we actually, and you just started delineating the moment of to the hospital.
Yes.
You've now had 11 years
Yes.
worth of moments just like that. And I'm sure some
Absolutely.
bring you peace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And some,
Yeah, and you're right. Some do bring me peace. Like I said, because I did receive the respect, and the chief at the time, the chief of police at the time, I think it was Esserman, he said to me, and he promised me while he held me in the hospital and said, we will get him. I promise you we will get him. And they did. They had so many members of the forces, the ATF, the all the above, got him. So I did receive some justice in that sense.
I was going to ask you, would you call it justice?
I think I call it justice because that's just what people say.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just a word that's out there and everybody just throws it off as they got justice. I'm never going to have justice because I feel like I'm living with, they have a lot of things going on now, second chances, the second chance law. I'm not against it I'm just in between trying to figure it out because the guy that killed my daughter got 67 years, but the laws changed. Who's to say good time, this time, who's to say any of these things that he can get out early, and
So you and I are going to have a very brave conversation that makes me a little nervous right now, but I'm going to ask the question.
Yes.
A lot of us who are in gun violence prevention often advocate for criminal justice reform on the side of second chances and more lenient policy. And I have heard from more than one mom, particularly moms in urban communities. I want more time. I want more consequence. I want more. How do we hold the two, right?
Right. Majority of these kids in the inner city that shoot and kill someone, they have priors. So my issue is, why do you need so many priors to get to this point to kill my child? You know what I mean? Or someone else's child. I think there should be measures that should be done before we get to this point.
You started to talk a little bit about who Erika was. Can you tell us more?
Erika was my middle child. She was an awesome kid. I've never had, like I said, she was 26. I've never had a problem with her. It's funny because, how they say when kids get in their teenage years, things like that. We've never had a problem. She was that kid that, honestly, we all, 5 of us, had to go to the mall together. It's funny. I laugh now, but she drove me crazy then. Yeah, we all went to the mall. So you think your teenagers are going to go off on their own. We meet up. No, we all had to go in the store together.
Erika wanted that.
That was Erika.
Yeah.
And she, that's just who she was. She was that person that wanted everyone always together, wanted family together. She loved giving cookouts and things like that. She was that child that knew her father's side of the family, my side of the family. Like, she was all over the place as far as, her smile was everywhere. And I definitely want people to remember her by her smile and her caring. She used to get up in one of her friends struggling with something, having a hard time. She used to be like, "Oh, Mom, I got to go. So-and-so is having a problem. I got to go be with them." She was that person. So that's why I said, when not just the immediate family hurt, close friends struggle to this day. So, yeah, she was absolutely a good human being.
When a light like that is extinguished in a community, it does leave an impact.
Yes.
Even 11 years later, even 20 years later. And that's
Absolutely.
another thing I don't think people understand about gun violence.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, everything changes. Your dinner table, your cookout, your any event that you have is always that. I used to always say that she was that shattered light bulb. That shattered light bulb and so many broken pieces, like you're trying to figure out, how to put it together.
Where do we go from here?
Where do you go from here?
Right.
Yeah, without her.
Right.
Without her.
I haven't asked you how your family is today.
We're managing. Everybody's okay. Everybody's doing their own thing. Everybody's still struggling here and there. You know what I mean? But, as time goes, you cope. You cope and you learn different things of how to, take the next step.
When you watch what's going on outside, the larger conversation around gun violence prevention or around supporting people who've been impacted, do you have ideas or anything that kind of hasn't been put out there, or anything that you personally feel really strongly about? I know.
I don't know.
It's almost too big for...
It is. It is. And that's the thing. I was involved in so much, and then it just got overwhelming because you wanted an answer.
Right.
You wanted to fix it.
Right.
Because every time you turn on the TV, you see in this day, my heart automatically, I always want to just go straight to a mom.
Right.
So every time I hear it's a stab in my back, I feel like the knife is in my back, just turn and never takes us out. That the knife is just turning every time I hear it, and I just want to go reach out to that mom.
So you found your niche, you found your wheelhouse, and you're kind of like, my role in this is to support other moms, and I want to make sure I get to that. And you also put your heart and soul into another initiative.
Yes.
And that is the Botanical Garden.
Yes.
In New Haven, dedicated to
victims of homicide.
Can you tell us a little bit? That's in partnership with Yale
Yes.
School of the Environment. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, that was actually formed back came about in 2017. And I just lost my daughter in 2013. So when it had came up and one of the girls had wanted to do something because her son was killed back in the 90s. And when she came back to New Haven, because she was in North Carolina, when she came back to New Haven, she didn't see any of the archives of her son. And she wanted her son to be remembered in some form or, things like that, something bigger, So basically got together. She joined our support group. And came together, and 4 of us jumped on board right away, wanting to be a part.
If you come to Connecticut to see the garden in Newtown, please take the extra 45 minutes, drive down to New Haven, go to the Botanical Garden, put it right in your GPS, and go there too. I always say that the distance between the garden in Newtown and the garden in New Haven is 45 minutes and a chasm of empathy. And it is a desire of my heart. And I think it would honor both Celeste's daughter, Erika, and my daughter, Anna Grace, if as a nation, when we responded to gun violence, we learned to respond in ways that were useful, helpful, and supportive to all communities and not just the ones we pick out.
Absolutely.
So I'm asking you, go to the Botanical Garden.
Yes,
I will even go
beautiful.
with you if you reach out to me at Yale. We will hook up a volunteer trip. We can do that as well.
You have the West Rock, so it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I was absolutely so happy to be a part of it, to be one of the co-founders, because at that time, everybody else lost their son in the 90s. And mine was so fresh.
Right.
And it helped me immensely to get off the floor, kept me off the floor, kept me out that corner, that feeling lost.
Right.
Really lost. And, so going out there and being able to not help just my daughter, to help everyone. And I wanted everyone to be remembered. Because if you lost your loved one in 1976, society may have forgot. But I wanted that family to know that we didn't. We did not forget your loved one. And it's a place you can come.
So I want to close out with your heart's work, which is you decided you've done some advocacy, right? We've done some traveling. We've done some speaking. We've done some things.
Yes.
We have tried many different ways. And one way that always connected with you was being there for moms. And one of the ways that you did that was by creating these comfort baskets. Can you tell us about the comfort baskets?
I came up with the idea with the comfort baskets. I remember when it first happened with Erika, and I received so many random people of gifts and just people that didn't even know me, people, stores around the area, and a basket touched me. It had touched me because I didn't know this person. You know what I mean? And it just, I don't know, I was just overwhelmed with so much. And I said, that's something I'll never forget how it made me feel. And I want a mother to feel that. I get, I don't want to say happy, but I get my heart feels good when I issue a basket to that mom.
One of the reasons that I find your initiative so compelling is here at the Yale School of Public Health, we're looking at firearm injury prevention under two lenses. One is the research to prevent gun violence, right?
Yes.
Looking into preventing gun violence. And that's suicide, that is, mass shootings, that is community violence, evaluating all of that, scaffolding what works. Yep. And the other is in supporting survivors.
Yes.
So this initiative you have of comfort baskets, the initiative you took part of with the garden. Maybe some moms do scholarships. A lot of times people on the outside, they don't see how that is a part of gun violence prevention, but it is very much a part of gun violence prevention.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah, because it's definitely, especially with the garden, the awareness. And when you're out there at the garden and you see the magnitude walkway and the amount of names that are on them bricks, and that's just in the city of New Haven, that's an awareness to where it makes you want to do something, see something, say something.
That's what the Dean, Megan Rennie, always says. We want to have hope, but that hope has to lead to action.
Absolutely.
Or we're going to be where we've always been.
Yes.
And that's not what we want for us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Celeste. And your contact is celeste.fulcher@gmail.com. And we'll put that up and people can reach out to you. They want to support, hopefully, the comfort basket idea or work with you on other ways in your community to help you support moms.
Thank you. Absolutely. Thank you.